Hey, what's going on, G-Ballers? I have a good one for you today. We are taking a look at a new knife coming in from Tacray Knives. Now, this is your first time stopping by. Welcome to GBall Vision. Drop a comment below. Let me know what your carry is for today. Now, this knife is available. I'll have links to it down in the description, and I believe I have a coupon code for their website. Now, this is going to be an intriguing knife for many of you out there. This is going to come in at $159 right now, and if I have a coupon code, that'll knock even a couple more dollars off. But we're going to be looking at a hand satin DLC finished ZDP 189 sheep split blade here. Rockwell 65 to 67. We have a cutout and front flipper for the deployment. We are going to be looking at contoured carbon fiber, really nice weave carbon fiber. And then we have a titanium milled clip and backspacer here. This is set up to be an extreme bargain right here. Good access with jimping on the liner, very easy to disengage. Came centered up. You can use the cutout on the reverse flick. You can use it on the thumb flick, and you have that nice long front flipper. Some people will love that. Some people won't. I think that would be for people who love front flippers or someone who wants to try a front flipper. It is going to work very well. It pokes up above the frame nice and high. The detent is tuned well enough that it is going to be a good recipe for satisfying front flipper action. You can come over the top very, very easy. This is one of the easiest front flippers to go over the top. So if you enjoy doing that, this is set up perfectly. Index rollover, very, very easy. This is, it reminds me of a knife, and I'm going to bring that out here in a moment. I've had this out for a couple days because I saw the price of it, and I was like, I want to get this out and get a good feel for it and, you know, really kind of decide, is this an insanely high value type of knife, or is this more, you know, bargain bin quality? And we've had nothing in the past from Tacray to indicate that it's bargain bin type stuff. Now, the price, though, is, and I've heard nothing but good things about Tacray from the people who use and sharpen their steels, their knives. I've heard good things back on the ZDP 189 from Tacray. So that in itself, you know, that is all good things for us all. Now, we are looking at 2 3/4 inches of cutting edge. We'll call it 2 7/8 overall. And then we have about 6 5/8 of total length. We'll bring out the Kaiser drop bear and the Benchmade bug out here for some size comparisons. And you'll see this knife, it's a little bit smaller than the drop bear. And two more, we have the SRM 261 and the Christensen Knife Works Maverick S here. This knife is one of my, you know, prized possessions in a sense. And this knife right here from Tacray, you know, I'm not saying it's the same design, but when I handled this and felt this in my hand, it reminded me of something, and I started to look for it, and it was this knife. Now, it's not identical in how it feels and or how it looks, but as far as feel in hand, the ergos, but the internal workings and the feel in hand, it just feels very similar to something like the Maverick S. Very different designs, but the quality and the feel in hand and how you use the knife, it's very similar to the Maverick S, which is a very good thing. This is a very expensive knife. Like I said, one of my favorite knives ever on the earth. But there it is up against the SRM 261 there. And that one is a 140 CR laminated steel there. Similar performance to S30, S35, I believe is what SRM is saying with that, which is cool. It looks cool. But the ZDP 189 from Tacray here is going to have a insane edge life. We'll get one of our 50 ways baked in GBall Vision hanks out here, and we'll see what this looks like in the pocket. Now, one thing I can say is, just because I've been carrying and using it, is the clip it works good. If it is something that has thicker seams, it could be trouble because it's fairly tight. Now, there is pretty good room underneath there, but the retention, it's not overly strong, okay? It's just strong, but there is good clearance in there. It just depends on how thick of seams we're talking. I mean, we're cutting hairs here when I'm saying that, but for normal pockets, for normal pants and stuff like that, this is going to be just fine. I've been slipping this in over top of sweatpants, waistband seams, right? And those are thick, and this goes over top of those. It's been going over my gym shorts waistband, so it works, and it's going to be good to go. Now, the sharpening choil looks pretty good. You'll get, it's okay. You'll get some good sharpening out of it, couple sharpenings out of it, but you're going to have a lot of edge life out of this as well. The action is superb on this thing. Nice big stop pin in there. You can see how that's one reason why this has insanely good closing action is there is no material right here pretty much. Like they really cut away a lot of material. So that really makes this top heavy or nose heavy. And then the bearings are good quality. So you just get this real smooth closing action, and it's pretty controlled as well. That DLC probably helps that out, but look at that, just nice and controlled. It's not too crazy. Very nice, very good. Yeah, I like this. It's not, it's not my size preference, but this right here would make an awesome user backup knife, like the knife that you're going to really use where you might have a primary that's, more expensive, what have you, or that you don't want to run into the ground. This one, this would be a good secondary backup user, kind of the backup knife, but the primary user. That type of stuff makes sense to me, at least. So, if I'm carrying these two knives, this is technically, in my mind, my primary knife, but this is my main user, but it's my backup knife. So, that's how I look at things anyway. It makes sense to me. We're going to get the arch nemesis out here after a long weekend with this thing, just whooping my ass. We're going to guess the weight of this knife here. I invite you to play along. Put your guess down in the comments. What do you think this fellow weighs right here? Remember, carbon fiber, very thin liners here. This is going to be a pretty lightweight knife, and it might get a little tricky. Put your guess down. Love seeing it. I'm going to give it a go here. It is... See, a number popped up in my head, but do I trust it? 2.8 is what popped up in my head. All right, let's go with it. Oh! Damn! All right. I'll take it. 76 grams. I've been like, I nailed one or two, and then the scale tipped up 0.1. I got 0.1, 0.2. I've had a battle with this thing here the last couple of days, getting real close. Get the calipers out here, and we'll get a couple of measurements on our handle and blade. 0.57 there, so nice and thick. That's what we want. 14.5 millimeters. That's a good handle thickness for a smaller knife. Let's check the blade stock here, and we're at 3.9 millimeters. Did you see it? 154 thousandths. And we'll get a behind the edge. And that's coming in at 23 thousandths. 0.59 millimeters. Let's see how this thing is holding up after a couple days of use. And I'm talking just daily stuff. I cut down a couple of cardboard boxes with it, some smaller mid-sized boxes, did some other cutting, but nothing crazy. This should still be cutting very nicely. Let's see. When it came out of the pouch, which I can show you in a moment, this thing was razor sharp out of the box. And as I said, ZDP 189 at that Rockwell, you're just going to get a ton of life out of that edge, which is, it's awesome. And to be able to get this type of steel, these materials at this price, very cool. It comes in this pouch. You get this little tag. I don't think that's removable though. And I'm sure, you know, normal buyers might get like some swiggity swag and some other stuff that I'm not sure of, but I know they typically send some goodies with their knives. Probably all depends though. Let's go ahead and we'll move into a hardware check here. And we'll start out with the pivot. We are looking at T8 there for the pivot. We are going to be looking at T6 on the two body screws. Very simple for the hardware, and we have a non-tooled clip here. They should have went with a smooth pivot on the show side here, and then you would have had just the body screw. That would have looked really clean. As far as... it appears to be D-shaped because that's not spinning, so that is a good thing. So we have a non-spinning pivot there, which, you know, that is definitely the preference. I didn't mess with that, did I? Nope, perfectly centered up there. One thing to keep in mind is you'll want to be a little lower. Basically, they give you the indicator spot right there. You want to be below where the ramp starts. So that way your finger is not getting pinched. Now it's going to depend on the size of your hand. You know, I can come way down here and do it just because the size of my hand. But you're not going to want to be right up here. You're just not going to make it. You know, you're going to pinch your finger, it's going to hurt, or you're just going to not be able to open the knife, right? So be a little lower on the handle, or don't even do that. Just, you know, do the index, roll over. Like that is much easier in my opinion. Especially, I love front flippers because as I pull this out of my pocket, all I got to do is just come up here, boom, and you're ready to go, right? I don't know. I like front flippers quite a bit, and I wasn't always able to say that. Early on in my knife collecting, I was questionable on front flippers. So we have to introduce this Tacray here. I'm not actually sure what the name of this knife is. I don't know if Tacray knows what the name is. It stands on its own, though. It doesn't need a name. We're going to... boy, that's a nice thick spine. 150 thousandths, I think that said, didn't it? That's a thickin'. Let's go ahead and we'll see how this lockup holds up. It is very early, but as we have seen in the past, that is no cause for concern. It can be an issue, but it can be done where you have very early lockup and very strong lockup. So it is possible to have both. I do like to see them, you know, 30% or so, but that gives this thing plenty of room to move over. That's going to give this a ton of life as far as the lock bar moving over. Let's go ahead. We'll give this thing a couple of taps. I don't feel any movement. It feels very good. No movement anywhere. No flexing. Very good. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead. We'll give this thing a couple of light taps to get us going. We'll start out towards the tip, and that will put a ton of strain on the lock here. Let's go. And I was thinking that might be the case. That DLC is slippery. That is very early. So, not surprised. And I'm going to guess that is probably the same with a majority. Now, I could be wrong. If you have this knife and you're willing to test that out, let me know. Now, is that a reason to, scream? Maybe. But can that possibly, can we fix that? Or can we adjust that to make it so it's not going to do that any longer, or make it so it's not going to do it as easy, right? Because this knife is $450 from Riot. Very expensive. Very expensive. So as you can see, it's not just this knife here. I have, and this one had lock issues previously. This went back to Christensen and then back to me again. So this knife has had its fair share of issues. Can that be fixed? It can be. Is it a, concrete? It can be fixed. No, but there are avenues we can take to try and get this to have a better lockup, or even a very positive lockup. I've had success before sanding down the tang of the knife and getting a better, surface for the lock face to meet up with. Just kind of buffing that down, sanding it down, also sanding the top of the lock face as well. Just trying to get those to meet up better and, have a better surface face to meet up on. So that is something that we can attempt to do. And some people, some people will not buy a knife that does that. Some people don't really care. So, it's something to be mindful of. I've been using this for a week and, I have not had any issues. It's got a very good lockup. Like if I push on this as hard as I can, it's not closing. So, here again, we're cutting, fine hair with what we're saying. It is not acceptable, but it's not also a huge, tremendous issue either, in the sense of using the knife. It should be able to withstand a couple of, there it is. It takes a little bit to get it to go. It takes a little bit. You have to give it a pretty good shot. Maybe even a little bit more than that Maverick, actually. There we go. Yeah, I mean, you can give it, it's okay. It should be better, though. And we might be able to adjust that. You'll have to let me know. Should we do a video? I have actually a couple that we could try that on. I could do a whole video centered around seeing if we can get a couple of these knives that are failing, their lockup, see if we can get them locking up properly. Let me know if that's something you would want to see. Put it down in the comments. Let me know what you think of this knife. I think it would make a great lightweight slicer. Just a lightweight user slicer. Obviously not something you're going to want to beat on anyway. I am going to be pretty interested in that lockup, though. You'll have to let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you enjoy knife and EDC content, make sure you're subscribed. I'll pop up a couple of new videos. Go check one of them out. Have yourself an awesome day. Thank you all again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.